Imagine a machine. Not just any machine, but a machine that drives our lives, our societies, our world. That machine is the economy. It's an intricate, complex system, ticking away behind the scenes of our everyday lives. It's the silent puppeteer pulling the strings of our actions, our choices, and our futures. It dictates everything from the price of your morning cup of coffee to the stability of your job and the strength of your nation. The economy is a vast web of transactions, interactions and reactions, a machine of a million moving parts. Yet, despite its complexity, it follows a set of fundamental rules. It's a bit like the weather, unpredictable in its day-to-day fluctuations, yet predictable in its seasonal patterns. Understanding the economy is not just for economists or financial gurus. It's for you, for me, for everyone who participates in this global dance of trade and transactions. Because, whether we realize it or not, every one of us is a cog in this magnificent economic machine. So, buckle up as we delve into the fascinating world of the economic machine. Just like any machine, the economic machine has its drivers. Three main forces, to be precise. Imagine a stage with three performers, each playing a vital role in the grand spectacle of the economy. The first performer, always the diligent one, is productivity growth. This force is the steady, consistent player, always showing up, always delivering. It's the slow and steady rhythm in the background that you can almost forget about, but without which the whole show would collapse. Then there's the short-term debt cycle. This one is a bit more unpredictable, a bit more flamboyant. It pops in and out, causing a stir, creating highs and lows in the economy. It's like the weather. It changes from sunny to cloudy, from calm to stormy, every 5 to 8 years. You never know what it's going to do next, but you can always count on it to keep things interesting. And last, but certainly not least, is the long-term debt cycle. This one is the big player, the one who comes in every 75 to 100 years and completely changes the game. It's like a comet not often seen. But when it does appear, it's a sight to behold. This cycle is the one that can cause the most disruption, but it's also the one that brings the most change, and with change comes opportunity. These three forces, these three performers, are constantly interacting, influencing, and shaping the economy. They're like a trio of dancers, each with their own steps, but all moving to the same music. They have their own rhythms, their own patterns, and understanding these patterns is key to understanding the economic machine. Now that we know the drivers, let's explore how they work together. Productivity growth, the first force. It's the steady drumbeat that propels our economic machine forward. Picture this, an orchestra steadily playing in unison, each instrument contributing to a harmonious symphony. That's how productivity growth works in our economy. It's the increase in the amount of goods and services produced per hour worked, and it's a critical aspect of economic health. Imagine you're a baker. You start off baking 10 loaves of bread an hour. As time passes, you find ways to bake smarter, not harder. You might invest in a new oven that can bake more loaves at once, or perhaps you develop a quicker kneading technique. Either way, you've increased your productivity. Now you're baking 20 loaves an hour instead of 10. That's productivity growth in action. Productivity growth isn't just about baking more bread, though. It's about the entire economy. When productivity grows, it means we're becoming more efficient as a society. We're producing more goods and services, and we're doing it quicker than before. This leads to more wealth and a higher standard of living. It's a vital part of economic growth. However, productivity growth doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's influenced by a variety of factors. Technological advancements, educational improvements, and investments in infrastructure can all boost productivity. Conversely, factors like regulations, high taxes, or a lack of investment can hinder it. Productivity growth is a complex process, but it's an essential one. It's the silent engine that keeps our economic machine running smoothly, driving wealth and prosperity. It's the rhythm that keeps our economic symphony playing. So, the next time you see a baker kneading dough faster or a factory producing goods at a quicker pace, remember the role of productivity growth. It's not just about making things faster or cheaper, it's about improving our economy and our standard of living. Productivity growth, the silent engine of our economic machine. Scene script. Next up, the short-term debt cycle. It's like the weather, changing every few years, bringing periods of economic expansion and recession. Picture this. The economy is a roller coaster. It's not always a fun ride, but it's one we're all strapped into. The short-term debt cycle is that roller coaster's most unpredictable loop. It's a cycle that typically lasts around 5 to 8 years and is primarily driven by the availability of credit. Now let's talk about credit. Credit is the fuel that powers this roller coaster. When credit is easy to get, people borrow and spend more. This spending stimulates the economy, leading to economic expansion. Businesses grow, jobs are created, and people are happy. It's like a sunny day at the amusement park. But what goes up must come down. As the economy heats up, inflation starts to rise. To keep inflation in check, central banks step in and raise interest rates. Suddenly, credit isn't so easy to come by anymore. Borrowing costs increase, spending slows, and the economy starts to cool down. This is when we hit the downward part of the roller coaster ride, also known as a recession. During a recession, businesses contract, jobs are lost, and people are not so happy. It's like the amusement park has suddenly been hit by a thunderstorm. But don't worry, just like the weather, the economy will eventually improve. After some time, interest rates will drop again, credit will become easier to get, and the cycle will start all over. Remember, the short-term debt cycle is normal and necessary. It's like the seasons of the year, each playing a vital role in the grand scheme of things. Despite its temperamental nature, it helps keep the economy balanced in the long run. So, the next time you hear about interest rates going up or down or see changes in the economy, think of the short-term debt cycle. It's the invisible hand that guides the roller coaster of our economy. The short-term debt cycle, a temperamental force that can make or break economies. The long-term debt cycle, a slow-moving, powerful force. You might not notice it, but it's always there, shaping the economic landscape. Imagine a colossal, invisible giant striding across decades, even centuries. This giant is the long-term debt cycle. It moves slowly, but with every step, it impacts the economy in profound ways. The long-term debt cycle is like a larger version of the short-term debt cycle, but it spans a much longer period, typically 50 to 75 years. While the short-term debt cycle is influenced by the ups and downs of the economy, the long-term debt cycle is influenced by the accumulation and reduction of debt over many years. So how does it work? Think of it like this. When the economy is doing well, people and companies borrow more, increasing the level of debt. As the debt grows, it becomes harder to repay, and the economy slows down. This is the peak of the long-term debt cycle. But don't worry, it's not all doom and gloom. When the debt is reduced, the economy can start growing again. This is the bottom of the long-term debt cycle. Now, why is it so important? The long-term debt cycle influences interest rates and inflation, which in turn affect everything from the price of your morning coffee to the cost of buying a home. When the long-term debt cycle is at its peak, interest rates are low and inflation is high. But when it's at the bottom, the opposite is true. Understanding the long-term debt cycle is crucial for predicting economic trends and making smart financial decisions. It's like having a map of the economic landscape, helping you navigate through the ups and downs of the economy. The long-term debt cycle, the silent but powerful giant in our economic machine. Now, imagine these three forces: productivity growth, short-term debt cycle, and long-term debt cycle working together. It's an enthralling dance, a dynamic interplay of these forces that shape our economy. Picture this. Productivity growth is the steady heartbeat, the constant rhythm that keeps the economic machine ticking. It's the force that propels us forward, increasing our capacity to produce goods and services over time. It's like the diligent engine of a train, chugging along and driving us towards a prosperous future. But the journey isn't always smooth. Enter the short-term debt cycle, the unpredictable gusts of wind that can push the train off course. This cycle is like a pendulum, swinging back and forth, causing periods of economic expansion and contraction. It's the boom and bust, the highs and lows that we often associate with the economy. It's a force that can either propel us forward with a gust of wind at our back or impede our progress when it's blowing in our face. Then, looming in the backdrop, we have the long-term debt cycle. It's like the terrain the train is traveling on. In some periods, it's a gentle incline, barely noticeable. In others, it's a steep mountain that the train must work harder to climb. This cycle can last for decades, subtly influencing the direction and speed of our economic journey. But here's where it gets fascinating. These three forces don't exist in isolation. They interact and influence each other, creating a complex and ever-changing economic landscape. The productivity growth can fuel the short-term debt cycle, leading to periods of rapid expansion. But if the debt grows too fast, it can trigger a recession, causing the pendulum to swing back. Meanwhile, the long-term debt cycle can amplify or dampen these swings, adding another layer of complexity to the system. This interplay is not just a theory, it's the reality of our economic machine. It's a dynamic dance, a symphony of forces that shapes our world. It determines the jobs we have, the money we make, the goods we can afford. It impacts businesses, governments, and individuals alike. Understanding this interplay is crucial. It helps us navigate the economic landscape, make informed decisions, and prepare for the future. It equips us with the knowledge to harness the forces that drive our economy, turning challenges into opportunities. And that, dear viewers, is the magic and complexity of our economic machine. We've journeyed through the economic machine, understanding its drivers and their interplay. It's like an intricate dance of productivity growth, short-term debt cycles and long-term debt cycles, each force having its own rhythm and tempo. These forces aren't isolated. They're interwoven in an intricate ballet that drives the economy forward or sometimes pulls it back. This isn't just academic knowledge for economists or business moguls, it's vital for every one of us. Understanding these concepts allows us to make informed decisions, to navigate the ebbs and flows of economic tides. To wrap up, let's remember that the economy isn't some mysterious beast. It's a machine, complex yet comprehensible, and we've just peered into its inner workings. Thank you for joining us on this journey. If you found it enlightening, don't forget to subscribe and join us for more fascinating explorations of the world around us.